The buzz on the street is that the spot Bitcoin ETF approval is here. Oh, wait. According to the SEC, their socials were hacked. Okay, well, that is quite strange. We did see some serious swings yesterday with all that drama that unfolded. Today, my guess is we get approval. Let's take a look at the Bitcoin swings and see if that gives us an indication on which way the market will move when the Bitcoin ETF is approved. Let's also dive into some altcoin suggestions from our viewers from last week's show, as well as some suggestions live today. Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel and our family. If you, like me, came into crypto because you realized the potential for life-changing gains over a 4 to 8 year period, and you're looking for discussion on becoming a solid, unshakable, savage crypto investor, like a Navy SEAL of crypto investing, you're in exactly the right place in the right family, the Rainmaker family. Now, the reason I created this channel is because I was once new to crypto 7 years ago, and back then I was looking for a crypto channel and a group that understood crypto as an investment and discussed important things like investment cycles and projects and the pros and cons of those projects, the risk, the guess, the upside if it came together well. I didn't find that. So we created it. And I say we because it isn't just me anymore. It's a family of Rainmakers. And you see them here in the chat. You'll also find them in a free Telegram group. The link to that is below. And you'll definitely find them in our private Patreon group that allows you access to the Rainmaker private Discord. And this is where the best discussion, the best info is. There are also benefits too, but you'll have to join us to find out. Do note, I'm not a financial advisor. Paul is not a financial advisor, and none of this to be taken as financial advice. Well, if you haven't already, make it rain on that like button and strap in for the show and help me welcome Paul from Definity. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here as always. Happy New Year to those of you that didn't catch the show last week, and looking forward to a very interesting 2024. It's all hotting up again, and we'll have a look at what all that means going forward.
Now, did you watch the drama and the price action unfold yesterday? What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, I heard about it afterwards. I just look at the price action. My main thoughts really were that, as I've said before, the Bitcoin ETF has been on the cards for some time. It's not new news. What we've got here is the reaction that would have happened had it been real news. Of course, the fact that it wasn't real news, just it's like a poker game. Everyone just showed their hands, and once it came out, they all bought. And of course, they sold when they found out that it wasn't real news. But I think pretty much the same thing would have happened if it had been real news. So those that have wanted to buy have already bought, and I think we're getting close to a selling point. 48,000 for me on Bitcoin's big resistance. We could see one more squeeze up there on the real announcement. But I'm getting a little edgy about the way the price action's unfolding. Broadly speaking, I don't think risk on is going to go anywhere in if we look at the whole year, but if we look at the short term, it may have got a little bit too far. And something else I think is worth noting is that at the start of the year, whilst most people go on Christmas holidays and use the holidays for a break, when I was on a trading desk, what I found was the junior staff would take a holiday and the senior staff would stay in the office because there wasn't much to do. It was quite quiet. And then when everyone comes back from their holidays, when all the kids are at school, then they take their skiing holidays and all that sort of stuff in the first couple of weeks of January. So broadly speaking, the markets aren't going to settle down for another week or so anyway. So I'm not going to read too much into this sort of spiky price action. But the main strategy that I've been looking at has been one of risk on, as everyone knows who's been following the show. You get it your way for some time, and then of course the market has to correct, and we just may be getting very close to that point when the market will correct, and we see a bit of a pullback, which would fit in with the news flow really very nicely. And you know, Einstein had this phrase that elegance is for tailors, and sometimes it might look really elegant. Maybe it's not going to work out like that. I just don't know. But that's kind of my working hypothesis on Bitcoin. If you weren't in it at the lows, and if you're chasing it right now, there were plenty of signs technically or otherwise, obviously from your fundamental point of view, that the market was turning around. It seems like from a long-term perspective, it might be the wrong time to be jumping in now. So we're getting that final squeeze potentially, and so that's just on my mind, that we should be wary of a possible top and a pullback.
Yeah, short-term pullback, maybe even for a month or two, as kind of things settle, right, and kind of scares people a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd like to see that confirmed in the price action. At the moment, it's all looking fairly smooth, apart from there was some volatility before this announcement as well. It was almost like somebody knew something was going to happen, and I'll show you the bar when we get onto the charts in a moment. But very unusual pullback from the breakout of the high. So it's that triangular constriction I've been talking about. It's a very nice pattern. It was last week I was saying I think the market should squeeze up, and then almost the next day, or perhaps later that day, we had a massive, risk off event that pulled the market back very short term, and then it's all kind of recovered and gone back up again. So there's definitely some volatility coming into this trend that we need to be wary of. So interest rates I still think are going to go down. The only issue with interest rates going down is I haven't quite decided whether there's something in the system that the authorities know about that we need to sort of get out in the open that's going to be really bearish as to explain why interest rates have to go down. I mean, it could just be inflation looks good, but if the economy continues to hum along nicely and the numbers are all broadly looking good, they may not be in a position to actually lower rates. So it could take a bearish event, like something in the financial system. I'm not saying I know anything. I don't. I'm just kind of speculating heavily here, that there's a possibility that we might see something in the short term that would make rates or make the outlook look a bit muddier. But then as we move into the sort of latter half of this year, especially as we're heading towards the election cycle, I think the markets will then start to accelerate higher. So, yeah, I mean, for the moment, I'm just on a watching brief, but I'm kind of looking for exits just in case. That's probably the best way to describe it. I'm getting more edgy about being bullish at these levels because you're hearing all these 200,000, 500,000 Bitcoin calls that where were those calls when the market was really low, and where the sentiment was very bearish? They weren't there. So that's an indicator potentially of a short-term top, not necessarily a long-term top, but definitely something to watch out for in terms of sentiment.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat that's jumped in. My good friend, the real Randy Chavez, jumped in. We got Sour D. Bernard, we have several people joining us who are Spanish speakers. Bienvenidos a todos que hablan español. Obviously, Valentin is from Argentina, and he's here. Where is it? MVE says this 2024 is our year, which is true. 2024 will be amazing.
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's going to be a very interesting year, 2024, 2025. The psychology, the sentiment, it's all set up. The cyclical stuff is all looking really interesting. We still have to be careful in the altcoin markets. I think you always have to be very careful, but there will be some great opportunities, and it's just a question of finding the right ones. We're not in that sort of everything bull market where you can shut your eyes, like in the property markets when everything's going up. It just doesn't matter where you buy. It's going to go up or go up by some degree, even if some other things outperform. I don't think we're there yet, which is a good sign. So we're not at the acceleration point, but we will get there. I just think there might be a bit of a road bump before we hit that kind of really crazy acceleration of price. So it means there's a lot to look forward to, really. But as we've said before on the show, when we were in those sort of bearish doldrums and it felt like it was just you, me, and your mum watching, that was where you needed to be. You had to be there every week, watching the markets, waiting for these opportunities, and when they turn around, it all happens so very, very quickly. So
a ton of people miss those low points because it does get so boring, and a lot of people who are just have normal jobs, they just stop paying attention because it's hard to pay attention. It feels like you're going in to get your lickings every morning, like as you look at the price, and it gets kind of depressing. And that's why I do say that's where the term buy when it's boring comes from, is like it gets so boring and it's hard. That usually is a signal that you're at the bottoms. Now, probably not the actual bottom, sometimes right at the actual bottom. I like to think of it as like, you ever been to a lake where it has like a really murky bottom and you put your foot down and it like sinks into the cold, but you can kind of feel something there, but it's not quite the bottom. Yeah, that's what it often is. And that's how I make a lot of my entries, is during that time period on strong fundamental projects, because then the weather does swing and the wind does swing the other direction. But being there, like Paul likes to get in later when it confirms that it's going the right direction. And so both of those strategies were good. I love having Paul on because it gives all the viewers like a perspective of how Paul looks at it, and more importantly, the rules Paul follows.
Yeah, technical analysis is there's many different facets to it, many different ways of looking at it. But what I've learned to do is try and simplify it down to read the price action. Price action is the most important part. Everything else, all indicators, all fancy stuff that gets put on charts, that makes the chart look nice, but in the end you're going up or down or staying the same. So you've got to keep things simple, and the market is what you trade. You don't trade the oscillator, you don't trade the moving average. So the market and what the market is saying should be watched primarily. And I think a lot of people look at other things, but within that, you're trying to capture big trends, and big trends begin, slowly, and they consolidate, and then they move up when people aren't really paying attention. And then when everybody gets excited, you see the opposite distribution, and then things start to go down again. And the hardest thing is staying with the trend, because very often there's lots of reasons not to be in that trend, that wall of worry that we talked about in the Dow Jones and the S&P and all the American markets, which is still there. The market's generally short those products, expecting the market to go down. So, so I'll never capture the bottom, and I'll never capture the top, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But everybody has their own ways of looking at it. I'm sure there's people who, love the fundamentals, do the research like yourself, and understand what's behind a project, and can have a good confidence that it's going to survive and do well. And if the environment is positive as well, that helps a great deal. So everyone has their own way of doing it. It's just, for me, I just like the visual aspect of it. And no method is easy, or no method gets it right all the time either. We'll get things wrong. And that just happens, really. And it happens to the best of them. Warren Buffett, you can't try to make money out of silver. It didn't work. Try to make money out of a currency cross, I think it didn't work, but he sticks to what he knows, and it works for him. So everyone's got to find their own way of doing it. But I just looking at the comments, I know you normally pick them up, but Russ Gold saying they are silent on OMI. We're never silent on OMI. You seem to talk about it every single week, to be quite honest with you. So I don't know what you mean by they. Is they someone outside, or was I don't know what that means, really. So I thought you might want to address that.
Yeah, I don't know if he means us, but I just had a flaming discussion Monday with some people on OMI who have turned, like, oh, there's nothing happening. The potential is low on it. Yeah, we like it, but it's just too boring. I'm like, great. That's exactly what I look for. So I think OMI is at an amazing price, and there's a lot of people who disagree with me on that, and we'll see how it plays out.
Thanks, Russell. Sorry to cut in. Russell's just come back with not me or you.
David Gans, so the CEO, and I forget Dan's position.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. I mean, And it's best to not stick your head up when the machine gun is firing. And the SEC is still firing the machine gun at projects, trying to declare them securities. So until the hopefully Coinbase wins their lawsuit, because the SEC declared a whole bunch of things on their exchange as securities. And if Coinbase wins that lawsuit, and there's good precedent that they should win that lawsuit, then it'll be safer for projects to talk more about their tokens. Are you guys for real? No,
no, we're not for real. Definitely not. No. Are you for real?
Yeah.
Is crypto cash for? Are you for real? No, obviously not. No, nothing's real. I'm AI. Didn't you know?
I think crypto's magic internet money anyway.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
I'm curious to get your take, and as we look on the Bitcoin, at the Bitcoin price, at what it did yesterday, how it did go up. Do you think that showed the hands that there are some people ready to buy? Or was that just like the initials that some were going to buy on the news, but really it was going to dump? And so it played out, like you said, like it was going to anyway.
Yeah. Well, can you see the chart up there? Have you got it up?
Yeah.
So this was last week. If we just take a step back, this is what I was looking at. This triangular constriction, which is usually a good breakout pattern, which similar to the one that was happening here, and good within a trend. So what happened is the market breaks into new high. That would be a buy signal for me. So if I see something, even if I haven't bought it, that's a signal to enter the trend. Now you might say that's pretty late. Well, it is pretty late, but that's the pattern. That's technicals, right? So we got this move up, and then we got this very sharp decline, which was, that to me was a warning sign. It's like, what is going on there? But I thought that was big news that happened, because it really affected everything. But we got rising lows still, even though that happened, the lows are still rising, which keeps the trend bullish. Now, we then got a further breakout of the high. So obviously this can happen, and it all depends from short-term traders where they put their stops. But the trend is still up. It's just getting really volatile. Who wants to deal with a 46,000, nearest damn it to a 42,000 swing? 4,000 points. That's not fun in the short term, no matter what you're doing. So then we get some consolidation, which keeps this in this range, which is still okay. So if you're thinking about what are the long-term players doing, by long-term, I mean sort of people who bought much further down, are they going to be shaken out of their positions yet? Or are algorithms going to take them out of their position? So far, not quite enough to do that. Now, we've got to break out to the high. We've got to see how this trades. But this sort of breaking out and coming back is not a great sign. It's got to get away from this area. But at the moment, it's not showing anything other than an increase in volatility within a rising trend. So I prefer a smoother trend, but it's still going up. So I can't 100% say that that's it. The only thing that I could say is that psychologically, you got the news. So it was like, there's the announcement. It's been approved. Everyone goes, wow, it's approved. They buy, and then it's like, oh, okay, well, it that wasn't right. Now it has corrected back from it, but it's not collapsed all the way back down yet. It's not even broken this support line. So there could be just a bit more to come out. So I was saying last week that I was watching this 48,000 level as a potential, resistance point, and I think that still stands. So I would be careful. I'd be careful of that resistance. I just want to see how it plays out. There's a few other things that are telling me that maybe risk on is going to take a little bit of a consolidation. The dollar's been bouncing, and a few other things that are just sort of pointing to, muddying the water slightly for risk on. Nothing that's a big change, but just enough for maybe a correction. So I'm more on alert than saying this is absolutely looking like a sell. ETH also hasn't really broken away very much from its basing point, which is frustrating. So it's a difficult market, I would say. It's a difficult one because, it's not like when the markets are forming a base, it's clearer that there's more potential upside there. But when it's when something like this has been running for a while, it's becomes more of a concern that we're just trying to squeeze that little bit too much out of it, and we've got to be more aware of a top, especially as I said again last week and the week before, with this news hanging over the market. So it'd be great if we could just get it out the way, is it approved or isn't it? And then we can kind of move on to the halving, which is the next big thing. But despite that, despite the sort of bullish outlook for this year, which I still think is we're going to see the market far higher than where we are now. The question is, will the path be lower first? And that for me is the only real question. Are we going to see it much lower before it goes up, or is it just going to go straight up and consolidate at these highs? I think a correction seems to be in order just because of the sentiment, just because of the way the market is getting really excited at these high levels and on this news. And it's the sort of thing that you'd expect near the top of a phase, really bullish news.
Yeah, agreed. It would be interesting to see it consolidate for a while, and that would help a lot of the people who didn't get solid positions and things before they kind of ran away from them, be able to accumulate some more. So I hope it plays out exactly like that. Maybe 3 or 4 months that it consolidates. And it would make sense logically that it does, because the ETF approval, what's interesting about that is, well, I don't know exactly how much money will come over initially, but it will be interesting to see how many essentially salespeople for the different ETFs, they go to work then selling people to move over or allocate some of their money into Bitcoin. And it seems like that will take a while to play out, unless all of a sudden Bitcoin shoots up tremendously really quickly. Then that would cause FOMO of people then FOMOing in really quickly, and people wouldn't. What's funny is when that's happening, even people like doctors and lawyers and stuff, they FOMO like crazy. So I'm lending towards a pullback for 3 months. There is a case where it goes up a lot, and that going up a lot then creates a lot of people trying to get into Bitcoin that aren't in Bitcoin. Because what's really going to take the market to a really, really high phase that I'm looking for is that people who are not in crypto now are throwing all kinds of money into crypto. And that's what creates the bigger run. And when that's going to play out, my guess is later this year still, that we have kind of a settle pullback, and then it starts gaining momentum. As Bitcoin then breaks 50 and 60 and 70,000, that gets everyone's attention. They start FOMOing in to Bitcoin, which drives the price higher, which then creates even more FOMO into Bitcoin. And then everybody in the world is talking about Bitcoin and crypto again. And then we have a blow off top.
I mentioned a few shows ago that we would need to look out for sort of people outside of the sort of this sort of arena, people who know about markets, so non-market participants, whether they're friends or family. I think someone made a joke about not having any friends, but I would say that that if you hear from people who say to you, how do I get in, and what's a good way of buying, that is a good late stage indication. It's not an immediate indication, but it's a good sort of sentiment indicator when you're getting people outside suddenly asking about how to buy. And I haven't heard anyone so far. So things have generally been quiet, and it hasn't hit the mainstream newspapers. What I also look for is non-financial news reporting on this area. So for example, when they start talking about oil being really high, or gold hitting a certain level, or Bitcoin hitting a certain level in the main news, then we are close to that sort of reversal period. So I've not heard anything there either. So other than this big news for the sector, and other than that, there's no big indications that we're at the top, what I would call the top. So that's to be continued, and obviously we're going to talk about that when we're near the time, and hopefully that's more than 18 months away.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look at, we have on the schedule to look at Solana, Drive, VET, Illuvium. We can also pull in some more suggestions from audience members. I saw that Keith was asking for us to take a look at Honeyland. I have not heard of it, but yeah, that sounds like a good one to look into, especially if they have addictive gameplay.
Yeah.
We'll see what Honeyland is about. The name could suggest a couple different things.
It could, yeah. I don't know where your mind went, but I was thinking, yeah, bees, obviously. Yes. So let's look at Solana. Let's look at Solana. So Solana was a great breakout play. Again, we talked about that all the way back down here. It's amazing how quickly things move. Nice smooth trend. It's been a buy until sort of now. This is a sort of pullback that I would be a little bit concerned about, because a short-term pullback is fine. This is getting bigger, and it still could go up. It still could be part of a continuation pattern, but it's getting messy, and the highs are pulling away. You see how we got high here, and it tried to rally to it, and that's literally failed today. So we've got this gap. So that's the buy trigger. That's the new sort of indication that the market is continuing higher, and we're pulling away from it. So this feels like this is topping out. And if you look at the volume is moving in the right direction, to be fair. In other words, the volume is moving down whilst it's correcting. If it was moving up, that would be a big problem, which would mean that get ready for it to be correcting even harder. But in the short term, I would be tempted just to exit and just wait and see. I don't mind rebuying at a higher level. And this is my trading hat, putting my trading hat on and saying, if I was watching this day to day, actively trading just this, how would I play it? And I would exit here. And then if it breaks this line, fine. I'm willing to buy it at a higher level. And if the trend confirms. But for me, I just get the sense this might have gone far enough. I could be wrong, but there is more obvious resistance points further up around this 140 level. So if it does take this out, and that would be where I think the upside would be, from which is still considerable, to be fair. Percentage terms, that's massive. But just feels like it might have gone far enough for the moment for me. So it's a wait. If I'm trading it, I'd exit, re-enter if it breaks that resistance point. Yeah, so that's my view.
Awesome. Well, Solana, I'm gonna jump over to my chart real quick. The downside about Solana now is it's run so much. It's number 5 on CoinMarketCap, and I don't like chasing green candles. And so a lot of the action with Solana is missed. Now, generally, I'm not buying in this price range anyway, this market cap range. So they're at 40 billion in market cap. There was a juicy time back here when it got crushed, and it actually went lower than it shows here, went to $7. It wasn't clear if it was going to survive. And then obviously some bullish news came out later about some major improvements they had made to Solana. And that kind of propelled it forward. But this was the buy when it's boring phase. And then it's run up. Do I think it'll run up some more? It may. I feel like Paul's analysis on that is spot on. This may be signaling a pullback. It just might be a short-term correction. And you'll know if it breaks the what it was just doing here, right? If it comes back and breaks 122, then it was just a short-term correction. Otherwise, might be pulling back some. So not my play. It's already at such a high market cap. If I were already rich and I had billions of dollars, I would probably just be buying. Yeah, sure. I'd probably buy some Solana and hold for a longer term. I wouldn't be opposed to that, because when you're rich and say you buy something in over a 5-year period or 4-year period, it goes up 5x. That's not bad, because you already have substantial wealth that you're playing with. Different rules apply to you, or different things that you're looking for. Me, I'm looking for bigger gains. And so Solana's got such a high market cap, it just can't run as much as some of the riskier plays. But I find Solana interesting. I'm just definitely not going to buy at this price. For me, it's even like personally, if I had a bunch of Solana, I'd be selling it and I'd roll it into lower market cap plays that are riskier. All right, let's take a look at Drife.
Yeah, Drife. We caught up with that very recently, didn't we? Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? Definitely very recently. It's been quiet for a while, and it was one that we've looked at a few times. Going back, this downward trend was worrying, and then it got this breakout that was too early for the for the base in the broader crypto market. Then it made another low, which was lower than the previous low, which is technically very, very bad. Thankfully, it recovered and it's made a double bottom here, which is great because that indicates that the market is now based and it has been moving up from there. So technically, it's responded to that base. This, if I flick it over to a weekly chart, you can see the pattern of how this is formed a double bottom. It's made this whole area a double bottom, which is what it's breaking out from now, or trying to break out. What we like to see is a very smooth move from there, just to indicate that there's some good buying power and this is a solid foundation. It could come back for a even bigger reversal pattern, what we call an inverse head and shoulders, and that's really just when you got this dip on the left, a bigger dip in the middle, and then another dip on the right. So that's a possibility, but it's formed a base and therefore it's been on the buy list. And I think last time I said it was a buy. So I'm going to stay with that until proven wrong. And where I'm proven wrong on that is this trend line here. And it's respecting that really nicely. So I quite like the fact that it's breaking out from some key resistance that goes all the way back here, October 22. It's a little bit volatile around it, which I don't mind as long as that settles down. So there's going to be some people who are wearing some positions that are desperate to get out and take profit, or come out and um, get out flat and then look at something else. So I would expect a bit of volatility, but if it's a good project, the market should smooth out and then kind of move with everything else. So that acceleration should come relatively quickly for this to be a good base. So whilst I'll give it a bit of room. Of course, altcoins you have to anyway, and of course, once again, there's greater risk in this than some of the other markets, but potential rewards are also greater too. So this trend line for me is where I bail out. For the moment, for me, it's a buy.
Awesome. Well, Drife is one that I followed for a long time. And during the bear market, I accumulated more, and that's starting to pay off. So it's good to see it getting some massive traction, essentially from these lows all the way down here. It's done what, like a 5, almost a 6x. And that is interesting how smooth that trend is up. Overall, looking at some really important numbers, they're still only at a $2 million market cap. In other words, it was at about a $400,000 market cap. So that's a very risky place to be, because the project itself, if they have a bunch of tokens, not like they can raise a lot of funds by selling the tokens. But it's such a low market cap that if it survives and does well from there, your gains can be absolutely incredible. So even still, it's at a pretty low market cap at 2.1 million. And we're seeing that half of what's interesting is the circulating supply is 923 million out of the max supply of 3.2 billion. Now, I don't know why this total supply and circulating supply are different for it, but I do like to get a feel for this number, the fully diluted market cap, which is as more tokens come into circulation, what does that full market cap look like? I still like this. It's not as juicy as it was. It's still really juicy at this, and it's not the greatest entry point and low, but it's not a bad entry point in that it's still really, really cheap. Now, what I can't tell is in the short term, will it pull back some? It might. So like myself, if I didn't have any Drife, I would be buying some. I wouldn't be loading the boats on it. I would just be buying some. I feel like it's still kind of at dock, but it's just leaving dock a little bit. And so it would just be a small buy, hoping for a bigger pullback and then a bigger buy. So good suggestion on Drife. Let's take a look at VET. It's been a little bit since we looked at VET. I think it's about a month ago.
Yeah, so VET is very, very similar, really, in its makeup in terms of it forming a base, breaking out, or trying to break out. This is more clearly failed to break out. We got a nice sharp move, and then it came straight off and below the kind of breakout point. Actually, it's looking a little bit like it's going to top here. Very small pattern. The dominant thing that's going on is its basing. So I think broadly speaking and long term, I'd expect even if it does dip for it to go back up again and this overall trend to come into effect. But very short term, this has failed to break out, so it needs to reprove itself, as far as I'm concerned, that it's a buy. Now we could do that by kind of buying a pullback. I don't mind doing that, but I'd rather pay more in a base and be more sure that the market is, actually moving higher in a proper upward trend rather than just buying it in a base and then watch it consolidate for a much sort of extended period of time whilst watching other things that are going up and thinking I should be in them. So for me, it's going to be a wait. Would I say sell? I suppose it's a wait, really, just to see how it plays out here. So I would have bought it with a stop. My stop would have been hit as it comes back. As I say, this whole area does look like a basing area, a basing phase, and that augurs well for the future, but it's just not quite happening yet. So so I'm going to wait and see how it plays out. So I think we should return to this for sure, see how far this pullback comes in, and then my strategy would be to wait for it to come back down, and then reversing back up through this area would be where I'd be interested in buying it again. But for the moment, I'm just going to wait.
Nice. Yeah, I think you actually called this when it was breaking out, because I think we looked at it a little over a month ago and the chart looked really good.
Yeah.
It did exactly what you were thinking it might.
Yeah, I mean it's one that's taken a bit of time to go compared to some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
There's been other bases where they've run much further, and this one it's only just recently gone, I suppose, and it's coming back fairly quickly, having broken out. So, I've got to sort of put that into context of if we're near the end of a move elsewhere. If I say, I'm not saying definitely, but if we are, then there might be a broader correction coming in a few things. So I just want to be a bit more cautious, just until I know, where the macro position lies and whether we get this news out and all that sort of stuff. There's a few unknowns that are kind of muddying the short-term water for me, that I just going to be slightly more cautious just for the moment until things clear. But broadly speaking, I think this is going to go up. I do still like it. There is resistance definitely here, which we should have mentioned. If I didn't, that was a miss, because you can see that was a really important breakdown point at 3.9 cents, and it's pretty much where it stopped. So a fail safe for me would be to buy it through 3.9 cents, because that would really be telling me that the market wants to go higher. But for the moment, I don't mind seeing it a little bit cheaper and picking it up on the next wave.
Yeah. VeChain, I like a lot as a project. It's in a somewhat boring narrative, but sometimes boring is good. Like, what's his name from Warren Buffett talked about, like during the tech boom, near the end of the tech boom, he was buying boring things like paint and other things, right? So the tech boom of the late 90s, the 2000 .com bust, actually led to a housing boom that went after that. Warren Buffett did really well buying things that he called were boring, which was paint and lumber and other things like that. Well, VJane does, I guess, authenticity of supply chains and supply chain tracking, which we don't often think about. It doesn't really, like, as we understand what that adds up to, it's actually pretty exciting, but we don't often just think about it. Let me show you what it adds up to. So this is their Twitter account, and going down, they reposted this: digital key services, demand digicard key for trust-free verification of authenticity. If you've ever bought sports cards, right? Like, some of these are fake. How do you know what's fake? And it looks like it was graded by PSA, and yet it's fake. And so if you buy this, it might be exposed as a fake and you can't resell it, and you totally got taken. Well, this is exactly the type of thing. Notice it's powered by VeChain, and VeChain is great for authenticity. So, like, I think the ideas came about because one of the founders was a VeChain, worked at Louis Vuitton or had been a head of Louis Vuitton, and there's a whole ton of fake Louis Vuitton purses. So how do you show the authenticity of products, which expanded from, to you can manage supply chains and everything from there, but they're just slowly plugging away like the little engine that could. And they did okay during the previous market. They went to almost 10 cents from a very low price. So they saw 30x gains, which is incredible. Not bad, not as good as some other things did. But this is a good blue chip gainer for those looking for blue chips. Now, I'm not currently holding blue chips. If I were already a billionaire, absolutely, I would be loading up on VeChain and I would just hold it, because say you throw, you're a billionaire and you throw 50 million into something and it goes up 5x over a 4-year period, you're really happy with those kind of gains. When you're trying to get to higher gains, I personally am looking for bigger multiples to get to the higher. And it's only because these bigger multiples are very possible during this early stage of the crypto market. And we're still somewhat early stage. We are going to see a whole bunch of people enter in this coming bull market. And then I don't know if it can be considered early stage anymore. And over time, some of these big gains where you can sometimes get 30 and 50 and 100x, that will become much more scarce and much harder to attain. So I'm not personally buying any VeChain. I do like it at this price for those that are buying. It's got a nice pullback for those that are buying blue chips and trying to hold blue chips. On that side, I'd rate it a buy. All right. Next on our list is Illuvium, which I love Illuvium.
Yeah, so similar patterns, really. Illuvium has been forming a base. It's broken out. I don't know what this spike here is. That's obviously bad price action, or someone's put the wrong number in. But it formed this base having traded in this downward trend. So the reason why I point out that is because it's important to see a prior trend before you see a base. You can't have a base in the, just in a range. So it's more significant when the market does this at the end of a trend. And it is now in this basing pattern 1-2. So it's formed the base, broke out, but now it's coming back into the basing price action once again. So it's not managed to extend like some of the other markets. It, for me, is I would just tread a little bit carefully, because this price action doesn't look like a continuation to me. It looks more short-term reversal. So I'd be expecting a move perhaps a little bit lower before it then goes up again. So it's a wait for me, just because it's chewing this breakout point at 104. Longer term, I do expect to see it higher. I think this will settle, and after the pullback, it will go higher. It may just go higher, of course. I could be wrong. Everyone can get it wrong sometimes, or more often. But there's no guarantee, and at certain points of technicals, you can be sort of really sure when something's going to happen, and there's sometimes when it's less sure. And at the moment, this for me should have squeezed up in a smooth way, and it hasn't. Because it's coming down, I'm just going to let it go lower before, finding where people think it's cheap. And when they think it's cheap, they'll start buying it. We'll see where that prints, and then we'll have a very decent sort of stopping point from a trading perspective, which is how I view everything. If I couldn't trade it per se, if I had to take an opinion on it, for the long term, I would buy it, and I would just put a stop below sort of 53, that sort of area, because there's really good support there. Knowing or thinking that there's a very good chance of a pullback before it then goes up again. But that's part of the strategy. That's worn into the strategy, or, I've expected that and planned for it. Where things can go wrong is when the markets don't do what you expect and you just sort of stay in it, just hoping that it'll turn around. I can't do that because I don't look at the fundamentals. And if I can't read that the fundamentals aren't sound, I have to use the price action. And I prefer to use the price action anyway for lots of reasons that we won't get into now. But I like a good sort of buy point. I like a good stop point. And when I see that very clearly, I feel more confident in the trade. So it's not the end of the world that it's consolidating like this. I think a pullback is fine because other things are doing it. But longer term, it looks bullish, and because of this base, but it just needs to pull back first. So for me, it would be a wait.
Yes, I agree. Like, it's going to be a little bit blockchain gaming. So we got caught off guard with this blockchain gaming narrative that ran very early. And it ran early because some really big YouTube channels and Twitter accounts were talking about how blockchain gaming is going to be revolutionary. And they're not wrong on that, but that got a lot of people excited early. And so we had a lot of things, including Illuvium, really run up. Like, this was an amazing buy. And this is when I was like, oh my gosh, it's so juicy way down here. And I loaded up on some more Illuvium. And so it went way up here. And you see that before it went way up like this and then down. Now, how low will this correct? I don't know, maybe a little bit lower. It would be amazing if it came all the way back down here again. I just don't know that I could expect that. That would be too good to be true, because then I'd get a chance to load up a bunch more at a really cheap price. Let's look at where their market cap is. It's still not in the blue chip category. It's at 320 million. Not near as cheap as it was. It was like less than half that. So it was at 160 million when I felt like Illuvium was really juicy. And where's the potential upside? I think really good. I think Illuvium is going to be one of the games that a ton of people who don't play crypto come in and play, and that there will be quite a bit of FOMO about Illuvium, but I think that's still yet to come. Their main game isn't ready for rollout. There's still some more steps that have to happen before massive numbers of gamers are coming in and playing it. Part of the reason Axie Infinity ran so hard is that it was getting massive adoption from non-crypto people that were coming in and learning to play it. And I think that will happen for Illuvium. It's just not ready to happen yet. So I actually hope it pulls back in the meantime and is a good time to buy. I did recently sell some, just taking some profits out. And so, like, do I recommend you sell this? It depends on what your long-term goal is. I do think it'll come down a little bit cheaper. I had to free up some funds for something else. And so Illuvium, I'd made really nice gains on. It was a good time to take some of my profits out. I still have some writing, and I have a whole lot of their land that I'm not selling till I see much, much, much higher prices on the land. Cool. So good suggestion. We have a bunch of comments and a lot of suggestions. Let me try to scroll up to the top and see what other ones to look at. One of the first was, make sure if you haven't given us a like already, that does help the channel, and we appreciate that. It does tell YouTube to share this information out. So thank you for bringing that up, Valentine. What was Thoughts on VPAD, but there was one before this, and I don't know why I'm missing it. I felt like there was one before that. We can take a look at VPAD, and maybe while you're going through it, I'll find what the other one I was. Oh yeah, Keith's comment came after that. So Sour D asked us to look at VPAD. Let's take a look at VPAD.
Right. So is
That is
that
VLaunch. VLaunch and VPAD, yeah, same thing.
okay?
So
right.
whichever of those gives you the best
Yeah, or something.
chart
case may be.
history, yeah.
Yeah. This often becomes the issue. There we are. Okay, so this is a interesting one for sure, because the dynamics of this have changed from smooth downward trend to reversal. So this is a reversal, but it must be a very thinly traded market just by looking at this price action. The style of this price action is it looks like someone's handwriting. When you look at markets, they all have, I suppose you could describe it as different handwriting, and this looks really like there's not much volume at all. So that kind of raises the risk level. But this has formed a double bottom base, so that's a technical pattern that implies that the lows have been seen here and the market should trend up. Now, in contrast to the previous market, you can see how it went through the trigger point and it's come back to sit on the trigger point, which is a much better proposition than it just sort of chewing it and then looking like it wants to come lower. So I do like this. I think it's highly speculative though, so I wouldn't be putting personally very much money into it, a small amount, um, just because I like the technicals. But I can also see because it's thinly traded, uh, it could be very volatile ahead, and I wouldn't be able to discount the fact that it could just go straight down here in one move with not very much volume. That's the problem with thinly traded markets. But that all those caveats aside, it does look like it's based out from a technical point of view, and it's a really interesting one. So I would put it on the buy category, but I'd put it on the buy category with a small amount. Buy and sort of for me, it would be a buy and hold, and I wouldn't sort of look at it for another 6 months unless it's broken sort of important my sort of stop level. So I put a stop level in, and as long as it's above that, I think it's one of those markets that it's thin enough for me to not want to watch it point for point, just to put money in it that I assume it's going to go to zero, but or I'd be braced for it to go to zero and it wouldn't affect me. But I think it's got a good technical pattern that's worth playing and worth trading it. And I'd be happy to look at it, 6 months time and see where it is. As long as it hasn't touched my stop, it should be much higher. So yeah, that's a kind of interesting one. I'd be interested to know a little bit more about their fundamentals, just because of the way it's got this interesting signature and the way in the way the price action has been drawn out here.
Yeah, VPAD and VLaunch is an interesting one. They are a launchpad project, which their name kind of suggests, between VLaunch being the name of the company and VPAD being their token. Their market cap is at 15 million. Now, it did get a lot lower than this. Essentially, their price is like 2.3x what their low was. So it was once down at like $6 million market cap. It's come up a little bit. I think something like this goes to a several $100 million valuation or market cap during the greater bull market. It looks like 1/3 of their tokens are in supply. I like VLaunch and VPAD. It was founded, one of the two co-founders is Chris from Crypto. When I was new in crypto in 2017, he used to create videos on deep fundamental analysis on altcoins, and he was the best. No, I've never seen somebody as good as him at that. Never. Like, I'm not as good as him at that. I wish I was. He is just brilliant at that. Very unemotional. He's German. He's really, really good at economics and the psychology behind what creates a successful business. Most of his picks, he picked a lot of ICOs and other things during that time, and a lot of his picks went 80 to 800x. And he just decimated nobody else was even close to as good as him on his research. And he was very picky. And it was a really good training ground for me to learn how a smart investor thought about things. It was amazing. And I'm glad I found him that early. Now, he co-founded this. Is he actively involved in it? Just a little bit from what I've seen in the background. He does make a lot of videos, but they're really about Bitcoin leverage trading, which I don't recommend, though he makes money at it. Even if you try to follow him, most people who try to follow him totally get wrecked at it. But I do like his project because he's well known and well liked in the crypto space. It gives him access to some of the good projects that'll be launching. Because with the Launchpad, it's all about what projects are you going to have access to. So the really, really hot projects that get launched as the bull market heats up, which Launchpads are they going to? And so his status helps him get access to some of those better launches. Seedify is one of the top ones. VLaunch will sometimes get access to some of the hottest launches, like what Seedify has. But Seedify has a much higher market cap overall. So though Seedify will have the best launches, their market cap is 192 million already. So I just have a hard time justifying buying Seedify's Launchpad unless there's a big correction downwards. So it's already gone, about 8x from the bottom. And that's because Alex Becker has talked about it so much. It really, really pumped the prices. He was talking about gaming projects. He was also talking about Seedify a lot, and that really pumped up the price. I can't buy Seedify at this price. I want a juicier price. VLaunch is at a decent price. I would almost still say wait. I would just like to see it at a better price, even though I think it could do a lot from here. So really at where the market cap is, if it goes to a $300 million market cap, that's only a 20x from here. It would have to go to $1 billion market cap to be a really juicy one from here. So I'd like to see a little bit better price on, sometimes I forget to share it back the other screen. So it's at a $15 million market cap. Yeah. So that would mean that $1 billion market cap, it would be going about 70x from here. Well, I don't know if VLaunch can get to $1 billion market cap. So I'd like to see a cheaper price before I load up more on VLaunch. Now, I do have some VLaunch, and I've had it for a while, and I'm just sitting on it waiting for the price to get really juicy. I'm not selling that at these prices. I'm not loading the boats at these prices either. Cool. So it allowed me to go through and star all the comments. That's cool. I just realized I can do that. So it makes it easier to go through and find the ones with suggestions in the order they are suggested in. So let's take a look at Honeyland HXD.
Just before you do that, what was the name of the guy at VLaunch that you said that you followed? His fundamental
Crypto is his YouTube channel.
Okay. I'll have a look.
His analytical skills are impressive. He's a billionaire. He's 29 or so.
Yeah.
So he was like a taxi driver when he started crypto back in like 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning him a while back. Yeah. So Honeyland. We shouldn't delay looking at Honeyland, should we? What's the code? You got the code
HXD.
There? Sorry, what was that?
HXD.
HXD. Oh, there we go. Wow, that has been running, isn't it? Goodness. So, shame we didn't see this earlier. Again, one of these things is one of the problems with these things is there's just virtually no history. So you start out with a downward trend and then the market breaks into a new high, and what do you do? There's no reference points. There's nothing no resistance points that you can link to. So all you can do is just go on the trend, and the trend is up. So in that sense, it is a buy, but it's highly risky when there's not much data to step into something like this. So I'd like to know, at least a little bit about it, just because it's so early, and the price action has not got much history. It's not much development. But overall, what I do when I see something like this is I look to see where the trend is. B, I look to see where the trend is relative to other things. So is it trading down here, or is it relatively strong compared to some of its peers? And it does seem to be leading the way up. So things that tend to do that will continue until we see a reversal pattern. That's part of the discipline of technical analysis. It doesn't guarantee it will go up, but that's the discipline. So you try and stick with it until you see the signs that tell you that the market trend is over. So it's in a consolidation here. It's pulling back. That's not a topping pattern per se, but could come back to this trend line. That's the previous support around 18 cents. So that might be a short-term stopping point before it goes higher. But small amount of money that I could afford to lose would convince me to buy it. I know you can't do that with everything, but if it's sort of filtered through because somebody's interested in it, then I think that gives it sort of one level of a checkpoint, price action level 2. But there's a few more that I would prefer to have, like much longer history and that sort of thing. But those things aside, it looks like a buy.
All right. Let's see. Well, I was able to do a little bit more research while Paul was sharing on Honeyland, and it's helpful, right? So it came out just back in earlier 2023 and really struggled, but it was on Solana. Remember, the whole Solana chain was struggling, and a lot of people were saying lots of development was going on in Solana, and this would have been one of those projects that now has come out, and you can see their website here, and it's a fun little website.
It's a gaming site, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And kind of a fun, very simple game that they put lots of little fun things in it, like good sound effects, little dopamine rewards. And this is the direction of some of the games that really dominate in the crypto space. If you think about it, a lot of people that are going to come over and want to play, they want to play games that are simple, fun, they can play on their phone, and that they can get some rewards that they actually get to keep. And that's the beauty of what blockchain gaming can do. A lot of the Solana ecosystem, remember, Solana has been really hot, and all the games on it have done tremendous. Like, this is tremendous gains. It's done a 20x from the bottom up to the top here, which is incredible. I'm a little bit leery at buying because it's still a relatively low market cap at 34 million. It could go a heck of a lot higher than this if it continues to get actual gamer traction. I think it's just early for it to get lots of gamer traction, but I don't know. This would actually be a take profit zone for me, that I'd be taking some profits on it, and I would be leaving, and I would probably be taking at least half my profits out on this, just because there's so many other things that are cheap, and say, it's a little bit late to get the 20x gains. It's about 12.5x gains. But if I'm able to roll that into something else that, say, in the greater bull market does a 40x from here, well, my overall returns are almost 500x. And so I would be moving some of my profits into some other things. Would I be buying more at this price? I would just need to wait and see. I can't buy more at this price because there's too many other options I like fundamentally that are really cheap. I just don't know how high this can go. And maybe it goes double or triple or quadruple here because the game gets talked about and everyone's loving it. I just don't know what the probabilities are. And the probabilities aren't strong enough that I would be like, that I would want to take that bet. So yeah, at most it would be a wait, possibly a take profit zone if I already had a bunch. But it looks like a really fun, good project. So don't think that I'm discouraged on the project at all. I'm not. It's just when gains happen, especially this early, part of the reason I made such good returns, I had somebody ask me in my gold Discord, because at gold Discord, you get pretty much access to message me all the time, and I get back with you. I highly prioritize you. So the gold level Patreon members get access to the gold level Discord. And he was asking me, like, how big were your gains? And I was going back through what I did in 2021. And some of my highest gains were only 100 to 150x. But I was like, wait, but my overall portfolio 100x from the bottom. And I know some of my gains were only 20x. So how did that all happen? But some of it came because I took money and I got, like, for example, Axie Infinity, I made 100x on that, but that isn't truly reflective of the total gains I made, because I rolled those funds into other things that made me another 4 or 5x. So what I really made was 400 to 500x on that money. And so when I get good gains like this on something, I'm usually then looking for something else that is really cheap that I really like to roll that into, because if I can get a 15x on something that looks like it might have a pullback before it runs some more, I want to roll that into something I might get another 10 or 20 or 30 or 50x on, and that just amplifies my gains. So great suggestion, Keith. Project looks cool, actually. And Solana, I'm glad that they fixed a lot of the things that were flawed with it. I'm still a little bit skeptical in that, are they really fixed? As it sees massive traction, is it going to really run? Hopefully it will. All right. This I just had to share. Vidimon says, Coinbase just offered to help the SEC with proper security practices. Good job, Ryan Armstrong. That is hilarious. If you have time, please review MELD. Let's take a look at MELD. MELD was actually just recently on my mind. I was looking at the charts and I was like, ooh, I like it.
Okay. So yeah, so you're liking it because it's coming into support. For me, it's caution, because this was the breakout point. You can see it 2.7 cents, 1, 2, 3, sort of 4, fifth attempt, and it's rejected it. So I think, did we not look at this last week? Maybe 2 weeks ago? I think it's recently. But as it approaches these levels, I don't mind buying in and then bailing out if it fails, because if it breaks them, usually that's like a dam breaking and the market moves aggressively. But more importantly, it's part of a longer term base and potential trend. So we're still in this range, unfortunately. Some temptation to nibble, given that we're close to a short-term breakout point. So this, let me just clean up this chart a little bit so you can see, because the volume was getting in the way. This is actually a reversal pattern, which triggered around here, 1.4 cents, which was quite a nice short-term move, and it's coming back to that point. And usually if it does that, this area should act as support. So I can understand a buy signal here with a very close stop in case it fails, putting a trading hat on. But if I'm looking slightly longer term, then I would just wait for it to hit support. Hopefully it's going to be here at 1.4. And then as it's going back up, that's where I'd get in. So it's a wait for the moment, but definitely interesting in its base forming in terms of its long-term structure. And where I get really excited is a break of 2.7 cents, because there's a massive amount of resistance up there, and clearing it would be an extremely important technical signal.
Yeah, I like MELD, and I especially like MELD at cheap prices. And thank goodness it came back down. So it gone all the way to 2.6 cents. It's come down to 1.5 cents again. Now it's not as juicy as it was where it broke under a penny, which was amazing, but it's close. And probably there's going to be some resistance here, and likely it'll bounce off of it. I would love for it to go even cheaper again. So, maybe some people will start funding MELD and allow it to go even cheaper. I would love that. But at 1.5 cents, it is definitely a buy from me. A little look at where the market cap is. It's at 53 million. So do I wish the market cap was cheaper? Yes. but 91% of their tokens are in circulation. And I love that about MELD. So from here, there's really good potential that there aren't, most of the people who have the tokens have been trading them if they're trying to get out of them. And so a lot of the people at these prices are holders. And I think it's getting set up that it can run really well. Now, where can a project like this go during the bull market? It can go to a $5 or $10 billion market cap. And that is about 100 to 200x from here. And maybe it goes higher, but that's the range I would expect between $1 billion to $10 billion market cap. So that's 20x to 200x from here. And that is a very juicy range. So these are the type of plays I like to take. And at the price it's at, it's an exciting price. So Tommy, great suggestion for us to take a look at. Scott Walden said, just got on, what about ICP? ICP is one that I called at $3. It's no longer $3, unfortunately, but I like ICP, and let's see if it's still cheap enough.
Yeah, that was we've still got the little technical breakout point here, where I was looking for it to sort of start to accelerate. At 7.9, that was again key resistance. You see how it just goes straight through? That's really nice. And then here, this is the sort of consolidation I like to see to extend the trend. Now it's come back and hit that, which is fine because it's been really running. So it's been really running. But look at this line here. That was put in as resistance as to where it may find a problem extending, and it's hit that. So I think given the way everything's looking, it might be time to take some profits on it from a short-term trader's point of view, or at least brace for a correction, maybe back towards 8 before it then goes up again. So I like it in the long term, but I think in the short term, it's probably a wait here. If it takes 15 out, then I'd have to reassess. But for me, it's sort of gone to the target level and now it's ready for a correction. So yeah, let's see if it does. Let's see how much it corrects. The only thing that would convince me to buy back in would be if it forms the similar sort of technical pattern that we saw in Bitcoin, that triangular constriction. So if it does something like that, I like to see that pattern because it's consolidating at a high and near resistance. If it does that, then I'd be willing to step in and buy it again. But for the moment, it's going to be a wait because of that overhead resistance at 15.
Yeah. I know that price, it's not as juicy as it was. Now, if I were a billionaire and I just wanted some good long-term plays, absolutely this would be one of them. Now, even though I don't generally like higher market caps, like at $3, I called this a buy. It's still outside the range of what was interesting to me, but it was so juicy. I was so tempted to go ahead and buy some because it hit a price that, in my opinion, should have never happened. It was once $428. I remember when it came out, everybody was talking about it and how much ICP do you have? And it came out and had this crazy valuation. It was like a $90 billion valuation or something. It was like in the top 10 on CoinMarketCap. And so that May 2021, right? So the market was still like really hot. And I was just like, I can't buy into something that just came out. Yes, but it's going to change the world. And I was like, yeah, but they're going to go through vesting pains. And, a bear market will happen. And during the bear market, then it'll be time to look at it. Well, that's what this all looks like. And I've just seen this play out, this pattern. And so that's when it became a juicy, juicy buy. Now, it's still a pretty juicy buy. I think it can do tremendous things. It is a really strong team behind it and a strong company and a strong value that they're offering as a service. So I do like projects where I feel like what they're offering makes sense on how what they're doing within blockchain will help improve the world. So ICP is a strong project that way. It's not as juicy of a price. I'm not going to be buying it, especially at this price, but at $3, it almost was interesting enough to me. If I were looking for blue chips and I was just trying to get 5 to 20x gains, and roll large money into them, ICP would be one of them that I'd be doing. But that isn't the case. I'm trying to get 20 to 400x gains or higher. And so for me, I'm not buying ICP, but I like it. I would be probably next cycle. That's exactly the type of project I'll be looking for, because then I'll just be looking for over a 4-year time period. If I can get 5 to 25x gains on large amounts of money, cool. That's good enough for me. Pink Panther says Tectum rain on a big run lately. I'm not sure Tectum. We might have looked at it last time. The name sounds familiar a little bit. Tech.
Okay.
Oh, TET. We did take a look at it. Boy, it has been on a run like crazy.
Yeah, I don't remember it for some reason.
Here's what I found. So I found it. It is TET, and it is on CoinMarketCap. It looks like it's not going to pull up on your chart. You might have to grab it on CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, I've got it there. I just was trying to get it on
something that you could actually look at the chart more closely with. Yeah.
Well, if we did look at it before, I'd be interested in what we're saying. I mean, the chart has been bullish since October. It's pretty much been following the path of the majors. So given that, it will be influenced by, I would say, if it's correlating to it, at the moment, that's likely to continue. But trend is up, so it's still looking bullish. The only caveat again is that there's not a lot of data, and I don't know very much about it. But you can't fault the upward trend for now. Things like this, maybe later on in the cycle, I might get a bit more bullish about just sort of shutting my eyes and buying. Because I'm thinking macro that we may be closer to a correction, I'm going to be a bit more cautious. But there will come a time when things will just all be running, and I'd be more confident in buying something like this. But given there's not a lot of data, got to be careful. But the trend is up, so I can't fight that. I can't give a sell signal on something until there's something concrete technically telling me that the market has made a high. And all we're seeing is we've got two green bars, green candles, whichever way you want to call it, and it's broken through the prior resistance. So coming back to that prior resistance at 16 is a possibility. Look at how volatile this is. That's pretty volatile. So what can go up really fast can come down really fast, obviously, but that's part of the trading signature of the market that we're looking at. But having said that, if I have to make a decision on it, the trend is up, so I would go with that upward trend. So for me, it's a buy, but it's a very cautious buy.
Awesome. Yes. Interesting about Tectum. Now, I want to share a little bit of fundamentals on it. Let's see. First, so the market cap for it's a layer 1 blockchain, and they claim to be the fastest blockchain in the world. They're not, but they're the fastest blockchain that maybe people are talking about right now. 181 million market cap is not very high for if they get some traction and go a lot higher than this. Looks like half their tokens are in circulation, so that's all pretty good. It looks like they launched earlier this year and they finally started to get some traction. Now, something like a layer 1 blockchain, these market caps can go so much higher than this. They can go into the tens of billions. So what is the opportunity from here? Well, it's not on a lot of exchanges yet. It'll probably get on more, but this really comes down to looking at the founders and the team and the team's connections. The team makes all the difference, because there's a lot of competition for layer 1 blockchains that people are going to use. It has already, from its lows here, it has already gone like an 8x. So something to be cautious of, that it's still a fairly cheap market cap and half their tokens are in circulation already. So it could go up tremendously from here still. But what you're looking at is really you'd be going to their Twitter. You want to see what kind of traction they're getting. Okay, only 61,000 followers, but that's a good start. You want to see, okay, they're joining Cheeky Crypto's channel for a discussion, or his Discord server. Okay. You want to look at how strong this team is. That makes so much of a difference. Let's go to their website. The fastest blockchain for all industries. Tectum is the world's fastest blockchain. That's not correct. A lightning fast distributed ledger powering the superconductive digital financial environment for the future. But they do claim that it can do 1 million transactions per second, which is vastly faster than Solana. Vastly. Not even close. Like Solana is looking at 50,000 transactions per second before, and it couldn't even do that, and it had to be shut down. They've since upgraded it. I don't remember what their new claim on Solana is. Maybe 200,000 transactions per second, maybe. But interesting. So 1 million transactions per second is very fast. Now, I'm intimately familiar with a blockchain project that is much, much faster than TET. And that's how I know that they're not correct on claiming that they're the fastest blockchain in the world. In fact, Crypto Banter recently covered Devi, or Devio is the one behind it. And Devi can do 8 million transactions per second. Its token is about to launch at the end of this month. 8 million transactions per second. And it's been in development for like 7 to 9 years. And so a lot of the things that I look for is a project that has like bootstrapped themselves to this place. You see a lot in the crypto space that a project will launch and they'll be like, yay, we have this great idea and we're trying to raise $50 million by selling a bunch of tokens. And you're like, well, how long have you guys been working on this? Oh, for 6 months. And it's like, how much of your own money have you put into it? Oh yeah, we put in, 10,000 each as the founders. Okay, well, they're not very invested in that project. They haven't really put substantial investment. What I like is to see projects that have been building for a long time before they do any kind of token sale to the public. And so Devi is launching later this month. Now I'm heavily invested in Devi. I gave them a lot. It wasn't $1 million, but it was hundreds of thousands of dollars. At first, I was skeptical when I first talked to them because this was back like 3.5 years ago. And a project coming out saying that they can already do 8 million transactions per second. My response to that was, that's impossible that they can do that. And I haven't heard of them. So I knew a friend that knew the team. And I said, well, put me in touch with them. I don't believe it's possible. Yeah, I'd love to talk with them. And yes, they can do 8 million transactions per second. They actually had Accenture's blockchain team because they did a deal with a Fortune 100 company who also said the same thing I could do. Your technology can't do what you say it can do, but we want to verify it. So they sent Accenture's blockchain team down to their headquarters to verify that it could do 8 million transactions per second. It could do all the things that they were saying they could do. And Accenture's blockchain team, which is one of the best in the world, said, yes, it can do that. So, incredible verification. Why are they taking so long to go public now? Well, some of it had to do with scrutiny from the US and just it not being clear what the rules are on selling a token. So that had a big part to play in it, which is a benefit, right? I hope when they launch a month from now that the prices are really cheap. So a lot of those that are interested can load up on them while they're very cheap. I think the initial market cap on launch will be like $10 million. So it'll be launching on, I don't know for sure which exchanges, but it will have an initial exchange offering. And then it'll probably just be tradable on that exchange. For a short bit before it gets on other things. They will be releasing it as an ERC20 token. So maybe some on Uniswap, there'll end up being some liquidity, which would give people the ability to get it. But TET is along the same lines, a very fast blockchain. And it's not that I'm not a believer in it. I'm just a little bit worried about the price having gone up so much before I jump in, but do realize that the space that they're playing in, like this can go to a much, much higher number than where it's at. So am I going to be buying it at this? No, I just have to wait because I don't chase green candles. I don't know enough about the team behind it. Somebody has a connection to the team behind it. I'd love to interview them. I'd love to know more about TET, what kind of partnerships, what kind of things are going on, what kind of substance there is behind it, because that will give me a better indication of whether it just might go through a pullback or it's just going to continue to rip till its price is in the market cap is in the billions of dollars. All right. Great suggestion. Let's look at the comments. Choff says, I came across the gaming project Bajum Network and their token Bajum. They host games on Kusama. This is interesting. So Kusama, what I like about Polkadot and Kusama, like nobody's talking about Polkadot and Kusama, and they haven't been for a while. And remember when Solana ripped, all the gaming projects on Solana totally took off too. And so on my mind has been Kusama and Polkadot, because still it's out of the narrative. Nobody's talking about it. So Choff, this is a great project to look at the price and see if it looks interesting what they're doing. So Baju is the name of the token.
Sure. So this is the chart. If I think it's the right one, that's what came up when I put the code in anyway.
Yeah, I think you're on the right.
Yeah. So I like the way this looks. It looks like it's in an acceleration. Obviously, it would have been better to be looking around this point here where you've got the rising lows, flat top. That was the first breakout point. So for me, 6 cents is where my stop is. I'm not going to ride it any lower than that because this is not much data, then market, all those caveats again. See the comments before about all of that. Small amount of money can go maybe a long way with this, but it also can go to zero. But trend is up and it's been accelerating higher. So it's in a consolidation point here, which is to be expected. What I want to see is it goes sideways for a bit and then start to press up towards this 26 cents point and then a breakout from there. But it's got as good a chance as any. I think if it does anything on the downside, it will probably come to this 7 cents area, which is the first breakout point, and hold there as support and consolidate if everything else is going to do that. So all I'm saying is that this might get blown around by the broader macro position for other things. But overall, the trend is up. The technicals are pointing to the upside. So I would go with a very small buy position and then revisit it, see where it is in about a month's time.
Yeah, great suggestion. So I'm just doing some more research on this to get a feel for it. Now, first thing I look at is their market cap. Then I try to get a feel for how much is in circulation, which we're not getting very good answers from CoinMarketCap on that. Maybe CoinGecko will give us a little bit better information because no, this, I don't think this is the same. Maybe it is. They're saying it's Ajuna network and the price action seems somewhat similar. Let's see if it is. Price action looks somewhat similar. It says Baju. Let's see. It doesn't give us any of the stuff we're looking at as far as CoinMarketCap, circulating supply, total supply either. So that's disappointing. We don't know how many other tokens are in circulation at all. The self-reported circulating supply is 50 million, but what is the max supply? What is the fully diluted market cap? So it takes some further research to figure that out. It's only on MEXC and Gate.io. Okay, MEXC you can presently access from the US if you use a VPN. Gate.io, I don't think you can anymore. You used to be able to. So it's just in those two markets. Interesting. I would like to know more on it. I like their website. So let me share this. A good looking project. I mean, good looking little characters. How good the characters look is important. The second is gameplay. And obviously, we don't know what the gameplay is like. Looks like 203,000 transactions already, 318,000 NFTs minted. So apparently there's more NFTs minted than the number of transactions. And 5,800 wallets. They're backed by Master Ventures is one of their backers. Master Ventures invested a lot in Polkadot and Kusama type ventures, so that's not a big surprise. I do like that Polkadot is generally out of the narrative, and a lot of people aren't thinking about Polkadot or Kusama. And so I do think there's an opportunity there. A lot of the focus right now is on Solana. That will probably roll to somewhere else. And it wouldn't be a big surprise if it rolls over to Kusama and Polkadot. And if it does, you could see bigger gains on this, but we don't have great information on what the token vesting looks like. We don't even have information on like how many are in circulation versus the max supply and what is the fully diluted market cap. So that's something to be cautious on. It did come out all the way back in 2022. So it's been out for a full year, a little over a year. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, for me, I would want to know more on the fundamentals. I do like how it's showing the team and them kind of working on things and gives you a feel for the team behind it, that, there's multiple people working on this. Yeah, this is definitely research and more, and possibly this is of interest type situation. So I may have to rate this as a small buy and a wait for bigger purchases until I know more information on it. But good suggestion from one of our viewers. Let's jump over to our next one, which is it still a good time to buy for STX?
STX. Right, let's have a look. So that's Stacks. I think we have looked at Stacks before, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, it's been the trend has been up. I do remember looking at this. This area here, prior resistance, it's just playing through now. So this is a consolidation that it's literally just broken through the high of, which is continuing this upward trend. So it does feel like we're sort of near the end of something, but the trend is still up. So I would say, for me, it's a time frame dependent answer. So if you're trading it in the short term, I think wait, because you might get a pullback. But if you're looking at the long term, it's doing well. So as long as it's over this $1.30, I think that's a buy. And I'm only going to sort of think about getting out if it's below $1.30. So putting it in, we're not going to look at it every single week, given that the time frame is most likely going to be longer term. For me, it would be a buy. We're approaching these all-time high levels for this particular project, which is interesting. It will probably react at those levels. If it goes straight through, that's going to be a big sign, but I'd expect some form of consolidation around there anyway. I know it's still a big move if it does that, but within the kind of cycle, I would expect some form of correction and then consolidation, then a break into new highs, as a broader kind of idea as to how things might play out. So for me, this would stay on the buy list. It's doing well. It's leading the way, and little late to buy it for the first time here, I would say. it wouldn't surprise me, or built into the strategy would be a correction from the long term, because it'd be unusual and not really fair to expect it to keep just going up in a straight line. But yeah, that's a good one to look back on, and thanks for suggesting it. So for me, it's still a buy.
Awesome. I got distracted. I was actually messaging with Devio about just their coverage on Banter, that they are going to have further talks with Banter. Banter covered it, but he didn't cover very in depth. He definitely could use more research on what Devio's about. And that's what I was mentioning to the team. Let's see. So back to stacks. Interesting that it's taken off so well. And we had some really good comments I did want to address. Thank you, Mario and Pink Panther. Rain, I believe Tet's narrative is more related to a Bitcoin layer 2, but I could be wrong. And Pink Panther is saying the same thing. Tet is trying to be a layer 2 for Bitcoin. That is an extremely interesting narrative. So if they have the team to pull that off, Tet could do way better than where it's at. That's some really good fundamental information. Geez, that is a much bigger deal. So the place to really, when I'm really trying to get better research, the place that I start is by looking at their Twitter, and I really start digging in deeper there. And I see like who's following them, like TrustPad. Okay, who else is following them? That's bigger names. Okay. I want to know what kind of traction they have, because if they could be a layer 2 for Bitcoin, their market cap could go into the tens, or, probably mid tens of billions of dollars, which would be a huge increase from here. But if they can pull that off, and you don't necessarily have to have approval from the Bitcoin like miners and stuff to do it, you just have to figure out a way to be able to then roll up to the Bitcoin network. Very interesting narrative. Thank you for some additional fundamental research, everyone, on that. All right. So back to what we were talking about, which was stacks before. I wanted to get back and address some good comments that had come in. So the price has broken up solidly, and it broke up past this, and it looks like it wants to run. It may come back and retest something and then run some more. I don't know why it's not going to continue to run. Another Bitcoin layer 2 for Bitcoin builders. So this is the current narrative, right? So it's not, I guess, too surprising that stacks, I clicked on their website, and it's not too surprising that both these are running, because Bitcoin is on everyone's mind, especially with the Bitcoin ETF being approved. We'll see what happens to the Bitcoin price. But I imagine if either of these two are able to be successful with what they're trying to do and become a layer 2 for Bitcoin, and essentially allow people to do DeFi on Bitcoin, market caps can go a lot higher than what they're at. But that then justifies the run and why it's running when it's running. And I don't know that this narrative is going to go away yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if it goes up to these previous highs before then bouncing off that. And maybe it then doesn't push all the way through, or maybe it does push through. But this isn't a bad short-term trade. This is exactly, I would say the odds are stacked for a win on a short-term trade, as long as you're then taking profits, as you're hitting some of these just before these resistance levels. And it's not something I'm going to hold longer term. I don't know how the layer 2 on Bitcoin, how close they are to achieving it. And when the narrative focuses on something else, maybe some of the steam comes out of this. But at a minimum, this would be a short-term trade where I'd just be buying it, and then I would be flipping it like a 50% gain, and then definitely before it hit $3. So cool. Good suggestion, guys. Fantastic suggestion. Let's take a look at Yvonne Williams. We only have time to look at one of the two you suggested. So let's look at LITH. I can't think of what LITH is. Lithium.
Is it lithium or LITH token?
Yeah, lithium.
Lithium. Okay, so lithium is it's a great song by Nirvana. Apart from that, the technicals is really interesting actually. Downward trend. We've got a inverse head and shoulders pattern breakout point at lots of zeros and a 4 there, 419. So that for me is the base, and it's forming an even bigger base, touching the top of this run again. Interesting the way it's come off and it's going back up again. Headline for me is I think this is a buy. I would go with that because it's got some pressing some interesting resistance. It does need to clear this eighth of a cent level. Lots of resistance there and around it, but I like the way it's doing it. It's broken the downward trend line, so for me the trend is now up. It's actually close enough to the base of it to be a good time to be looking at it. So yeah, so for me that's a buy. I'm glad we got to that one. Interesting one.
Yeah, fantastic timing on that. It has run up a little bit, but it's a really important point at where the price is. If it breaks the upside from there, it's probably going to rip for a little while. So let me share my screen. Some fundamentals. I mean, the market cap is in the range of what I like to see. It has over 50% of its tokens in circulation. Now, it says the total supply is 10 billion. And so we have 5.2 billion in circulation. Now, it isn't clear if that total supply is also the max supply. Also, these numbers don't quite add up. Okay, yes, it does. Fully diluted market cap is at 8.1 million. So it's still really low market cap at an interesting price. From the low, it's 4x from here, but it might break up higher. So let's see what they're about. Okay, how do you value art masterpieces? How do you value Land on Mars? Harness the power of artificial intelligence and crowd wisdom for expert guidance. Interesting. Artificial intelligence, crowd wisdom, market data, AI. So it looks like another project in the AI space. Lithium Finance DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization that governs and manages the protocol through the voting power of the governance token. Ecosystem partners. I would want to have a better feel for the team and everyone behind this. Sometimes you get that best through Twitter. So it looks like they got 37K followers, which is not bad if they're all legitimate followers and they didn't buy a bunch. Yeah, there'd be more research on this. It's at a really interesting point that looks like it wants to run and break to the upside. And if it does, it'll probably go up probably at least like 60% before it hits this next resistance point, and might run up quite a bit more. So we'll see. I like that a bunch of tokens have come out. It came out during the metaverse pump, and the token prices absolutely got savaged. Then obviously they continued working during the bear market. So interesting suggestion. I would put it between a buy and a wait because I just would like to know more fundamentally on it, but the price looks pretty good. And that's why I'd get like a small buy from me. All right. Good suggestion, Yvonne. Omi Queen asks us to look at Alex, the first DEX on Bitcoin. That is a very interesting narrative.
So Alex, is it Alex US dollar or
no, Alex Lab. That looks
Alex
like
Lab. Yeah, okay.
There we go.
That would make more sense given where it is. Again, not a lot of history. Hit the prior resistance here, broken through it, which is a good sign. It's come back to test it, and it's bounced off that, which again is a good sign. Didn't quite get to it, but it's in a consolidation near the high, which I like. I'd be a little bit careful because, of course, this has been volatile, and this could be forming a short-term top. So I'd be a little bit cautious here. But I think again, you've got to separate the short term and the big picture. The big picture, it has broken into a high, and given that we're in this broadly bullish macro phase over the next 18 months, I would expect it to go higher. So I'll be looking for buy points. Just maybe in the short term, we could see it come back down to 19 cents or so. A trader's hat on would be to buy it here and to put a stop that's reasonable for the risk profile. So I think around 13 cents for me would be where I'd put my stop. That gives it a little bit of room for a pullback, consolidation, and then a move up. But yeah, small amounts because there's not a lot of data on it, and there's so many to choose from. Why would I look at this compared to something else? But as I've said many times before, I like to look at each one as though there's no other competition for the trade. And given that it's breaking out, it's trying to move higher, it's correlated quite nicely with the broader market, not underperforming, etc. And I'm broadly bullish on risk assets for this year. I think it's a buy for me. So interesting one to look at.
What might happen with this bull run is we might have Bitcoin really run and kind of lead the way. If it does, then plays like this could do really well during that time period. It's interesting, having been in crypto since 2017, and people are trying to find ways to do DeFi and smart contracts on Bitcoin. Something I didn't even think would be possible because the Bitcoin developers don't update Bitcoin, but yet it was figured out a way to do NFTs on Bitcoin, which is crazy. And now possibly layer 2s for Bitcoin, and then possibly then DeFi on Bitcoin, which is crazy. I didn't even imagine this would be possible. And this is the cool thing about innovation is sometimes, like a lot of times, you don't see things coming. Their market cap's really good at 203 million. It can go a heck of a lot higher than this with what they're doing. Their token contract is on the Stacks network, which we covered earlier, which is one of the projects trying to be a layer 2 for Bitcoin. So if this comes together, it's got good potential. It's on gate.io, Bithum, never sure how to say that. Looks like it has quite a bit of volume on that. It's also on KuCoin, MEXC. So it's on a lot of decent exchanges so that you can have access to it. I was looking at their Twitter account. Twitter has 101,000 people following it. Alex multi-chain launchpad, IDO candidate, orange, interesting. Gosh, I'm curious to see if it breaks the upside from this. I would imagine that it does break to the upside on this and it runs some more. Great call, great one to look at. It's actually a buy, even though I don't like to chase green candles. It is a risky buy. It would only be a small buy, and I would just be trying to take the next leg up. Beyond that, it's just at some point some steam will come off of the narrative with the NFTs on Bitcoin and the ordinal NFTs on Bitcoin and other things. This narrative has been running for a little while and it's very hot right now. And so it would only be to take another leg up, and then I would be taking most of my money out, leaving a small moon bag with it. Cool. Great suggestions and comments today. Let's see. Got Nathan says, I'm definitely back in Drife. I do think the news of expansion to more cities is imminent any day now. That's really interesting. James asks, thanks for all. Something new for XRP. Is it possible to let us know? One of my Discord community members is really deep in the research on XRP, and he made me a fan. One of the things that I didn't like about XRP was the market cap was so high, I couldn't visualize that it could go to seemingly unrealistic numbers. But after he shared with me, gosh, so much information, my head wanted to explode. I could see that it is highly possible that the market cap could go into trillions of dollars, which would take it to $1 trillion, would be a 30x from here. And it's really rare that you can get a high market cap project like this that can get those kind of multiples. So I do, in essence, have a small bag of XRP myself. I'll probably add to that bag. Normally, I don't touch these blue chips because they can't do the kind of multiples I'm looking for. But with the ISO 200/22 standards coming, I do agree with him that XRP might actually be the financial system railways of the future. And if that comes to pass, the market cap can go to $1 trillion, 3 trillion, etc. People say, oh, that would exceed Bitcoin's market cap. That would exceed Bitcoin's present market cap, but Bitcoin's not going to stay at the market cap it's at either. All right. Mario says, I think it might be a good narrative this coming. I mean, would you take a look, see if you can see anything on the price, Paul? A lot of the news he shares is a lot of deep research that people deep in the XRP community have found out and pieced together by all these talks across different conferences at higher levels of officials with different governments. But the broader crypto market is generally unaware. I wonder if you'd take a look at the price and tell us what you think.
Yeah, it's not moving up very smoothly. That's part of the problem. Formed a base here. That was a breakout point. Now it's actually on that line at the moment. Can't see whether that's a residue line that I've left from before, but that line there, which is literally where it is now, was the breakout point, and it went straight up, came straight back in again, and it's posting higher lows, which is a trend. It's just not really accelerated, so it's moving up slowly. We've talked about it before, and it's a buy in the sense that the broader majors have been moving up, and it's kind of moving with it. But technically, it doesn't look as good as ETH or hasn't looked as good as Bitcoin and Solana. So I preferred those. I'd like to see the chart change a little bit to a smooth acceleration rather than just this kind of higher range price action. But it's not a sell for me. So it's just not the first one that I would turn to. But you do see, I mean, on the London Tube, you do see adverts for it, which is interesting because you don't see it for anything else. So I think that's an interesting aspect of it, that it's trying to get into the mainstream. So it seems a worthy project to be in the background or to have some. But for me, I would possibly look at something else. If I had to just trade this, yeah, it'd be a buy, but I would expect a slow grind higher rather than sharp acceleration at this point.
Yeah. I do want to get to our comment here from Mario. I think he's talking about TET. I think it might be a good narrative this coming bull run. If ETF is approved, Bitcoin transaction will spike. Layer 2 projects might benefit from that. Agreed. That is the interest with TET and why TET and also the other couple ones we looked at are interesting, because if the Bitcoin ETF is approved and we do see some money flowing in, then probably these potential layer 2s and even the DEX for essentially Bitcoin would probably go a lot higher. All right. That's all we have time for today. Paul, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure as always. Just look out for CPI numbers tomorrow, and that might give us an indication of risk on, and we'll talk about that next week. So have a great week, and see you next Wednesday.
Cool. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you.
So we're at an interesting time. A lot of times as investors, we wish we had a magic crystal ball that we could see the future, and we don't. And so the way that most investors that are successful in crypto or any market make money is they look for higher probability chances for gains. And Some of that comes through experience. Some of that comes through finding rules that work out more often than not. For example, if you play blackjack at the casino, on average, you're going to lose. However, you can adopt certain rules in counting cards that tell you when the probability is in your favor, and then you actually win more than you lose. Well, in crypto or any other type of investment, developing strong, solid rules that work out over time is what leads you to massive success. But this is also why 95% of people don't make money in crypto, is because they're just mostly buying on emotion. They're usually FOMOing into things and then panic selling out when the price action has reversed quite a bit and or it gets boring. They usually sell what feels boring and roll it into what seems hot. And those rules lead them to losing way more than they win. Want to thank you all for joining us. If you haven't joined our Patreon group, you will get access to the private Discord. For those that are really serious about making crypto work for them, might be a good thing for you to join. Also, if you're fairly new to crypto and you're looking for accelerating your learning curve, I do have the Zero to Crypto Hero course specifically for that. There is a second course that's specific to 2 projects that are massively undervalued that nobody's talking about right now, that I think have higher than normal chances for massive gains as well as lower than normal risk. So that course may also be of interest to you. That link is below. For everyone who's still here, thank you for joining us. I've got the crypto wrap for you as a reward. Hopefully you enjoy this wrap. Really just reinforces the principles that work over time with crypto investing. Thanks.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, shit right before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, the time like the present. The next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, studying to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this wrong could soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. Strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time, the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort, cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go of the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.